Hey everyone, welcome to the Mitch Sanker Show, where we talk business, entrepreneurship, and big ideas. Today's guest is one of the hardest working realtors I personally know. Keller Williams has named him Rookie of the Year, #1 individual agent in his brokerage, and #2 in all of Canada. But it's not all about the numbers though. He has strong roots in his community and is truly making an impact. Let me welcome my friend, Nate Brouwer. Let's start the show.
Hey, Mitch.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here and looking forward to the chat.
My pleasure. So, tell the audience, how long you've been a realtor, what area you focus in, and maybe why you got into real estate.
Yeah. So my name is Nate Brouwer. I work with Keller Williams Energy, primarily here in the Durham region. And I've been a real estate agent for about 4.5 years now. Got my real estate license in August of 2015, and I started with Keller Williams right out of the gate. So.
Cool. And why did you get into real estate?
Why did I get into real estate? That's a great question. I've been asked that quite a bit. I was never one of those people who just knew from the moment growing up, this is what I want to do with my life. So I went to university, ended up graduating and kind of not really having a plan or idea of where I wanted to go with my degree. And my father actually transitioned into real estate and joined Keller Williams a few years before I did. So I kind of got to watch that transition. And the more I kind of thought about it, I thought, this is, I enjoy working with people. I thought this was a great fit for me. And I just remember the day I just decided you know what, real estate is the career. And I just went after it 100% from that moment on. So
cool.
Yeah.
And you live in Clarington as well, as that's where you work as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I've grown up in Clarington. I grew up in Newcastle. I lived in Bowmanville for a few years. I currently live in Curtis. So went to school there, worked every job underneath the sun there, eat, sleep, and breathe Clarington. So I really knew a lot about the area. I was almost a local expert before I got into real estate. And then I just kind of had to shift my focus into soaking up as much knowledge and everything I could about real estate, right? I knew when I got my license that I didn't have a plan B, so I needed to do everything I could to make sure that this worked out because I didn't have a fallback plan, right? So I had a part-time job for the first, I think, 3 months. I had my real estate license, and they actually ended up finding out that I was trading real estate. Weren't too happy about it and offered me an ultimatum to either pursue real estate or the job I was currently working. And fortunately, I chose real estate, and it ended up being, in hindsight, the right decision. So
yeah. And so what was that like, that first year in real estate for you?
The first year in real estate. So I got my license in August of 2015, which is right in the middle of summer. I had a friend that needed to buy and sell, so that was kind of my introduction, and it was fortunate that the timing just worked. When I got my license was right around the time that person needed to buy or sell. So my first client experience, if you will, I was fortunate that it was a friend. But I will say this: it doesn't happen overnight, right? So I did that first couple deals and didn't really know where to go from there. Flash forward to the end of 2015 and going into 2016, in real estate, kind of slows down to the winter. So I remember actually getting to a point going into 2016 where I actually kind of started second guessing myself. I was like, you know what, this isn't really happening the way I had hoped. And I wasn't too hard on myself. I kind of used it as an opportunity, you know what, I'm going to double down on my lead generation activities and the efforts that I'm putting in until this works. Because when you're starting out, when you don't have a lot going on, you're not going on a lot of appointments, you kind of need to change your mindset and look at it as an opportunity. You have more time on your hands to dedicate towards these lead generating activities, which at the end of the day is what generates the business and keeps you in business in real estate.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So what was that like that first year? I mean, you want to throw some numbers out?
Okay. So I'd say the first 5 months, I think I did 4 transactions. And then going into 2016, I kind of started off slow, but I didn't let that deter me from doing the lead generation activities in January and February and March. And that actually catapulted me into April of 2016 is really where things kind of took off for me. I think in that 1 month, I think I did 9 transactions,
Wow.
which was more than I had done previously in the previous 8 months. So I think that kind of opened my eyes. And then once I kind of got an experience or a taste of the success, if you will, it kind of became addictive. And I kind of just like, I haven't looked back ever since. I've kind of just used that to kind of launch myself and motivate myself further into continuing those day-to-day activities, those mundane activities that one thing in real estate is, you don't get paid your efforts today. You don't get paid for like 3, 4, sometimes 6 months or longer, right?
Sure.
So you need to kind of stay motivated that way, because what your activities today will determine your paycheck in 3 to 4 months or 6 months down the road, right? So, in any other job I'd been into previous to real estate, I was very much used to you go to work, you get your paycheck every 2 weeks, and it was kind of set, and you could kind of bank on, okay, every other second Thursday I'm getting this amount of money, right? In real estate, it's absolutely not like that. You could have a really busy month, and then you could have a month where it's really slow, right? In my first year, I found myself kind of riding the roller coaster where I'd be like, when things are going good, you're on a high. When things are going a bit slower, you're kind of down on yourself. And after a while, I kind of learned that you got to just try and keep an even keel. And now I kind of look at it more as like an annual basis. Like it's like, I'm not going to beat myself up if I'm behind 2 months into the year. It's 12 months when they're all said and done. Have you hit your annual goals? And you can kind of track them throughout the monthly, quarterly, that kind of thing.
Right.
So.
And so was it that first year? Is that when you got a Rookie of the Year?
First year, yes, I did end up getting Rookie of the Year. I think I did 29 transactions, which, was, for me, was a game changer. I wasn't, when I first got my real estate license, literally my goal was just to not have to go back to another job, right? So started out with, let's sell a house a month. And then, why not 2 houses a month? And then once I did 29 transactions in my first year, I was like, okay, I'm going to set a bigger goal for 2017. And I think that year I ended up doing 43 sales. Last year was 50. And this year I'm going to do over 70 transactions. So I've kind of been able to grow my business year over year. And I also got to throw it in there. Like when I started in 2015, the market was nuts. Every house would be multiple offers. You'd lowball list it. You'd set an offer date. You'd have anywhere from 3 to 20 offers on offer night. And then like a light switch in the spring of 17, that all kind of changed. So everything I had known up until that point kind of was flipped on its head, and you kind of had to learn to adapt and go with the flow and what's working and what's not. And what we found out was that, once that bidding war market kind of stopped, the pricing strategy for homes needed to change. You needed to actually, do your comparables and listing a property $10,000 or $20,000 higher than what the potential market value might be could be the difference between being on the market for 60, 90 days and selling for 95% of list price, or being on the market for 3 or 4 days and selling for over list price, right? So pricing was really paramount in that strategy. And, you really kind of had to do your homework and know the market like the back of your hand. So. Yeah.
And what would you think, like realtors starting out getting into this career, what are some of the advice that you would have for someone starting their career in real estate?
So any advice I'd give to anybody starting out new in the business, whether, you're new, you're just leaving a team or just starting out on your own, or you just got your real estate license, is set goals and track what you're doing to reach those goals. Okay. And in real estate, you need to kind of find like what works for me might not necessarily work for everybody, right? So in my first year, I was like, I want to try, all the different lead generations. So whether it's door knocking or cold calling, I knew social media was going to be huge in this industry years ago before it's kind of became what it is today. So I really put a lot of focus and energy into those activities. And then after a year or so of doing those activities on a regular basis, I went back and dove deeper into it, found out kind of what's working, what's been not working, and kind of shifted my focus away from the activities that I found weren't necessarily translating to the best value for my time, and doubling down on my strengths and what has been working for me, right? I think the one thing you want to do is I think you need to give yourself at least a year. And you can't just give yourself a month of door knocking and say, oh, nothing's working, I'm going to give that up, right? So you need to give yourself enough time, but not dwell on it too long, where you're like, if you're door knocking for 2-3 years and it's just not really working for you, at some point you got to figure out, okay, where can I shift my focus? What's my personality better suited for? And just double down or triple down on those activities,
yeah,
right?
100%.
So, yeah.
And what would some of the the biggest mistakes you'd see new realtors make? Would it be that they're just
I think one of the biggest mistakes I think realtors make is when they're starting out is thinking that they need to spend a ton of money on billboards and signs and bus branding and all this stuff, which I'm not saying that stuff doesn't work, but I think when you're starting out, and I know I didn't have a lot of money when I was starting out, I was like, okay, what can I do to grow my business that isn't going to cost money? It can cost me time right now because I have more time on my hands, but I don't have a lot of money. So for me, starting out, building a social media page, that's something you need to do. But buying bench signs all across town when you just got your real estate license 30 days ago, I personally don't think that's the right play. I think that you should invest more of your time into growing your sphere, talking to people and basically just be doing everything you can on a daily basis to have as many conversations about real estate with potential home buyers and sellers as possible. And really, when you break it down to that and you take all the fluff away, all the big signs and the advertising and that kind of stuff, and you boil it down, that's what kind of helps you get your business going, not necessarily spending thousands of dollars on advertisements. I think you got to work your way kind of up to that, and then that's all kind of like static marketing once you've built a name and a brand for yourself that can kind of help elevate you to the next level, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So
100%.
I think that would be my main tip is don't go out and buy that billboard 2 weeks after you get your license. Buy open house signs, buy business cards. That's all you really need, really to start. So
yeah, no, great advice.
Yeah.
So you work with both home sellers and buyers?
Yes. So I work, I think this year is about 60% listings, 40% buyers.
Okay.
But it's not like that every year. Sometimes it's more 50-50 buyers to sellers. It just kind of depends on the situation, right? I work with people all ages. I work with a lot of younger first-time home buyers. And then I also work all the way up with, elderly people looking to downsize, that kind of thing, and everything in between, right? So I think that, I work with both buyers and sellers equally. As I've kind of grown my social media presence, I think I've been becoming more known as a listing agent. One of the things that I learned at Keller Williams early was you got to list to live, right? Working with buyers is fantastic, but it doesn't do much in the way of getting your name out there as much as a listing sign or a listing video would, right? So just something to take into mind. I'm not saying turn away buyers. Buyers are great. I love working with home buyers, but I knew the importance of listings early on in the business, and definitely made that a focus of mine. So
right. What do you like most about working with first-time home buyers?
What do I like most about working with first-time home buyers? I think you only get to buy your first home once, right? So to be a part of that is really special. You get to, from the moment you first sit down and meet with them, to find out their pre-approval, to start looking at homes, to finding that first home, to going through the financing and the home inspection, and then to finally get that deal kind of done and they know that house is theirs come 30, 60 days. It's just really rewarding, and it's just, you only get to be a first-time home buyer once. So I always tell people, enjoy it, because I'm not saying it's not as special the second time around, but really, like, you should be proud. A lot of us work our whole lives to save up, a large sum of money, and this is the biggest investment we'll ever make in our lives. And I think being a first-time home buyer is just a really exciting time in people's lives that I get to be a part of. So
yeah, and I'm sure if you you do a great job. Obviously, you build that relationship with them when it comes to then maybe moving on to the next phase of their life when they need to sell that home and maybe move up
Absolutely.
in size. Then hopefully they're calling you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? First-time home buyers, I always tell them, like, it's very rare that first-time home buyers buy their dream home first time off the bat, right? So whether it's you're planning on being there 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, statistically, it's been a good investment, right? And just getting your foot in the door, and then kind of maybe you can always look for homes that are more affordable, do improvements to them, renovations, that kind of stuff. Build your sweat equity, build your equity in that home, and then use that equity as a down payment on your next home once you need a bigger house, or maybe you need to move for work or something like that. Kind of use it as your nest egg and just kind of have it there for you. I think it's I think you can make a lot of money with smart real estate investments. And the best part about it is you get to live in that home while it's appreciating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be able to stop paying rent. Like I was a renter once. I remember buying my first house. I remember writing my last rent check, and it was just like liberating. Like, it was like, you know what? I'm paying my own mortgage now. Every dollar, I'm putting towards my house is going back into my pocket, essentially, as an investment, as a mortgage payment, as opposed to paying rent, right? So, yeah. So. And
what do you think? What are some of the biggest mistakes homeowners are making when they want to list their home?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, pricing your home is like more important than ever, I think, now. And I think that the most common mistake I see people selling their homes is listing it too high. Okay, just because you list a property $20,000 higher doesn't mean you're going to sell it for $20,000 more. At the end of the day, it's the market that's going to bear. I always say a home's worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it and what a seller's willing to accept.
Agreed.
Okay, and you could take a $500,000 house, put it up at $600,000 or $550,000, and it's probably just going to sit for a long time, and then ultimately sell for probably less than what you could have got had you priced it right initially the first time. So I think that would probably be the biggest mistake I see home buyers make. And it's not easy. No, nobody's perfect. I've certainly, every agent I think has to do price reductions at some point in their career. Sometimes you got homes that similar models, 5 have sold in the last 30 days within a block, right? And then okay, it's got a pretty tight price point for that. It's pretty easy to narrow it down. And then there's other times where you're dealing with more unique properties where maybe something like that hasn't sold in the last 6 months or a year, or there's nothing quite really like that. And you just got to kind of try and find the closest similar properties you can, and just try and use like a reasonable approach and figure out, a subjective value to that home based on what other similar homes are selling for.
Mm-hmm. And you just mentioned like unique properties. And I know you've told me before that you actually like having some unique properties and not always trying to list the exact same product or type of home, right? Can you talk about some of that?
So I worked at a car dealership before. No offense to that industry, but I feel like when you're selling one car like over and over and over, it's very much the same experience. With real estate, I like that it's different. Like, every house is different. Every family is different. Their needs are different. I like the challenge of selling bigger price point homes that, maybe have not had success in the past selling, like, and I also like the homes that, come along and, like, okay, that's probably going to sell pretty quickly. Right. So I like it both ways. I like that it's different kind of every day. I like that every home selling experience presents its own unique opportunities and challenges. And that's what kind of motivates me, keeps me interested, gets me going through the day. And really, I love a good challenge. And some of the properties I've sold this year, going into it, I would have thought like, this is going to be a ton of work. And they really, really were. But then when it actually finally all comes together, and it's all said and done, it's just it's just empowering. It's very rewarding to see my clients get a successful sale and a smooth transaction, right? So
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so you're in Clarington. What areas do you like the best in Clarington? Like, is there a best area or?
So one of the reasons I love overall the sense of community in Clarington. I think no matter where you go, it's still going to have that small town kind of community feel. I think that different pockets or different areas of Bowmanville have amazing things about them. I love how Bowmanville always has, Santa Claus Parade, Maple Fest, Apple Fest, like just that sense of community, right? And then there's other areas like Orono is such a charming, old town. It's got that character, still with that small town kind of feel, right? And I just like that. Like Newcastle and Bowmanville and Curtis, we all have kind of family business, like hidden gems in there that you would, I just love telling new people coming to this area, you got to check out this restaurant or this bar or this store or this event, and just really kind of integrating them with the community. And that's one thing I hear from a lot of people coming from outside of Durham and outside of Clarington and coming to Clarington. They just love the sense of community feel here, right? And you can kind of just go down to Maple Fest and like everybody kind of runs into everybody and just has a good time, right? And you just don't find that everywhere these days anymore. So.
Do you feel like it's got that small town feel where you feel like you know people and you see them around all the time?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think despite obviously Durham and Clarington, they've both grown exponentially in the last 10 years. But I think the sense of community is still very much there. And I think that having those kind of regular events and like the businesses and just the way we kind of come out and we support one another here, it's just a really tangible feeling. I don't know how else other to explain it than it's just a sense of community here that, growing up here, I feel very proud to be a part of. So
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's switch gears. Let's talk about more or less like, selling a home.
Yeah.
Like walk us through like basically like from, the acknowledgement that, maybe a lead just came in and then you're going to go meet with them. Like walk us through that whole process. Let me know what it's like, kind of, peel the layer back, show me the behind the scenes of what goes into selling someone's house.
Absolutely. So usually starts out, somebody reaches out to me, whether it's, thinking about listing or looking to buy a home. Basically it just starts with a conversation. I just kind of want to get to know you, what you're looking for, what are your needs? If you're thinking of listing or selling, like, why are you thinking of listing or selling? Where are you thinking of moving? Just to kind of get an idea of what that particular client is looking for. And then from there, once we kind of got an idea or a sense of, this is something that's a good fit, I'll set up a meeting with them. I'll go out to the house. I'll meet with them in person, kind of go through the comparables with them, do a tour of the home, kind of go through the whole process with them and just kind of make them feel comfortable with it. And then once we kind of have a game plan together, it starts with kind of, a pricing strategy. We want to have a good marketing strategy. We want to make sure the house is priced right. And then I'll bring in a professional stager, home cleaner, hire a videographer, professional photos. All that stuff's included in my services. So once you decide to work with me, I kind of just take all that off your plate and just try and make sure it's as seamless a process for you as possible. From getting your house photos booked and the staging done. I love to see the client's feedback when they see how the house looked before I showed up and how it looks up right before photos and the excitement and the like in their faces and their demeanor. And then kind of just once that listing goes online, I really push it heavily on Facebook and Instagram and social media, obviously, as well as MLS. And then just, really double down on the marketing and try and get as much exposure for that client as possible, right? And I love to see the feedback from the photos turned out great, the video turned out amazing. Oh my gosh, we got 15,000 views on the video. I like to keep them involved throughout that whole process. And then when it comes down to actually getting that offer, we go through it with a fine-tooth comb, make sure I'm explaining everything, the ins and outs and all the implications of that offer so they're fully aware, what they're signing and have a good understanding of that offer and the implications of it. And then from there, once we have an accepted offer, we go through the financing or the home inspection condition process, just kind of keeping communication with them throughout that process until ultimately we hang that sold sign at the end of the day for the sellers or for the buyers. Once we firm up on that home purchase and they know they're getting that house in 60 days, that's kind of the time to celebrate, if you will. So,
yeah. And then that's certainly what it looks like online. I mean, I see a lot of the photos there with the families that you're selling the homes with, and they get their kids involved and stuff, and it looks like they're so happy, and you could tell that it's a very personalized experience for them.
Absolutely. I think there's a variety of people move for a variety of different reasons. Most of the time they're happy, feel good stories, and in those times I really like to kind of share that time with them and that experience with them, and just kind of be there for them every step along the way. From the moment I started in real estate and got my real estate license, my goal was to make sure that every client I work with has the absolute best experience possible. I see a lot of people in this business that bounce around from agent to agent for one reason or another, and I just knew that once I kind of built a working relationship with them, I plan on doing I always tell people I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. Like, even if you're in your house for 20 years, I'll probably still be selling real estate 20 years from now. Yeah. And I want to be the guy you call. So that all comes back to just doing an amazing job for people, and delivering on your promise to them, and just ensuring that, you're understanding their needs and doing everything you can to help your client reach their goals in buying or selling.
Yeah. And just making it as, seamless as possible.
Yeah, and having some fun while you do it too, right? Like, there's a lot of, paperwork and mundane stuff like that too. And I think a lot of people watch like $1 million listing and you just kind of see the TV, like just the fun kind of, like, there's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that they don't show on that TV, right? But you can still have some fun with it. Buying a home should be a very exciting and fun process. And selling can be a very fun and exciting process as well, as long as you kind of go about it the right way and have a good marketing strategy together, and doing your homework that way. So
yeah. But it does sound like it's a pretty extensive process, that whole, like you just walked us through, like the start and finish. Yeah. Very extensive. What's your work ethic like? It seems like a lot of moving parts. Seems like you're coordinating a lot. You're in constant communication with so many of these different people to kind of pull together. It's like you're like a producer, just pulling everybody together to make this thing, successful.
Absolutely.
For your clients.
Yeah.
So like, how many like hours are you working like a week? What's your day look like?
So I'd say right now it depends. Like in spring and fall, I'm probably working 60, 70 hours a week. That number might taper off to 40 to 50 in winter and stuff like that. There's always stuff I can be working on in my business, right? So even if I have a week where it's not as crazy busy, like I try and fill in other things. I also have a full-time administrative assistant. I work with videographers, stagers, marketing companies such as yourself. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes. It's not necessarily just me that kind of help make this all flow so seamlessly. And but yeah, my work ethic as I've always considered myself an extremely motivated person. Before I was in real estate, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be successful at it. And, I consider myself a pretty competitive person. So, being successful in real estate for a few years now, someone could say, oh, you could always take your foot off the gas pedal, just coast. And, I could do that and I'd probably still be able to live a comfortable life. But, that's not what motivates me at the end of the day. If I'm going to do something, I'm 110% in. I want to be the best at it. I'm constantly working on my craft and improving. I think there's always room for improvement. And I think that the moment you kind of become complacent and think you've kind of figured everything out is the moment you start to kind of, decline a little bit, right? Yeah. So to stay on top of your game, especially in an industry like real estate where it's changing constantly, it's a constant, you're always constantly working on yourself. I go to as many courses, training seminars, conferences as I can. I try and soak up as much information and knowledge about this industry that I can better use to equip to better serve my clients as possible. So.
Yeah. And you must be just working around the clock. I mean, because you got to be available to, everyone's got different schedules, right? So if they're all talking to you, you must be on that phone like all day, every day.
Well, iPhone keeps, I think, your screen time saved.
Yeah.
And I think just the screen time, I was like 6 or 7 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I'd say 90% of that is work related, right?
Not Angry Birds.
And that's not even factoring like driving time and meeting time and like all this other stuff that kind of goes into it, right? So my day's usually pretty time blocked, solid for the most part. If I can find some openings in there, I try and book things for myself. Like, I try and go to the gym 4 times a week, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff, because when you get busy in the hustle and bustle, it's easy to kind of maybe put yourself on the back burner, right?
Yeah.
And business has always been a priority for me, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, you know what, if you aren't making sure, you're eating and trying to get like a certain hour of rest a night and like that kind of stuff, you really gotta pay attention to that, because I think it will catch up to you if you don't, right?
Yeah, no,
so
100%.
you can burn yourself out.
I'm in a rut.
Yeah, you can burn yourself out in this career, right? So I think, or in any career, right? So I think it comes down to like, one of my things is like, what's your big why? You know what I mean? Maybe that's a Keller Williams thing, but basically it's like, what gets you out of bed in the morning and what motivates you to do what you do, right? And people, there's vision boards and people have all different kind of ways of doing it. But my thing is like, I always want to have like a 3-year, 5-year goal, a 1-year goal. And what am I doing in the moment or on a daily basis that can help me work towards achieving that goal? Because any of these long-term goals, you can't achieve them in a day or 2 days or 3 days. It's like, it takes work, it takes commitment. It's over a course or a period of time, right? And that's something that I've kind of tried to work on right from the get-go, is just applying myself the best way I can. And it sounds cliche, but just trying to be the best the best real estate agent or best person I can be on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. And do you find like your day's pretty like structured, or like, I mean, with real estate it's probably all over the place, but like what does your morning routine look like?
I try and structure it as best as I can, but in the industry we work in, stuff is always constantly coming up. So I try and prioritize the things that can't change, the set stuff, and then anything else that can maybe be tweaked a little bit here or there. I'll kind of keep available just in case something comes up. I need to pivot, change game plans. I'll be honest, I'm not one of those guys that gets up at 4 a.m. and does yoga and meditating and stuff like, and I'm not knocking that, to each their own. I just think, everybody's kind of different, right? My day, I'll usually, I'm like a get up at 8 o'clock kind of, sometimes it's early, sometimes a bit later if I'm lucky. But that's more so because of me. I'm more of I'm more productive in the evening hours. Mm-hmm. So like I would rather finish uploading a listing at 1 a.m. than get up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. to do it, right? Like, so I'll try and tackle as much as I can the night before to make sure I don't have to get up at 4 a.m. the next day, right? And fortunately, not too many people want to book showings at 4:30 a.m. in the morning and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So, so you can kind of structure your day to a certain point, but you have to, at the end of the day, like stuff comes up, you have a client, new property comes up Monday morning, they need to see it Monday night, so you can't just be like, oh, my next opening's Friday afternoon, because that house might not be available. Right. So you got to kind of try and prioritize the stuff that has to happen at the time it has to happen, and anything else that can be adjusted, just know, okay, if this comes up, I can push this here, so on and so forth. So it's just kind of reevaluating the schedule and sticking to the stuff that you need to stick to. So sometimes there's stuff that's just unavoidable, whether it's personal or business, it's there at that time and there's nothing you can do about it. So just kind of setting that in your schedule and just knowing about it in advance and dealing with anything that could possibly come up beforehand. And just, if you're away, having a plan while you're away. If you're away at a seminar for an afternoon, you're checking your phone, or you have like your assistant kind of looking at your emails to make sure nothing kind of flies under the radar, right? So,
and I'm sure that schedule gets thrown out the window, like around like spring when it gets busy for you.
Yeah, it's funny. You go to the dentist or something, and they're like, "Hey, we'll book you in for 6 months. How's May 13th at 2:00?" And I'm just like, I don't know, but I already know May 13th at 2. Like, that's just going to be a crazy day.
Yeah.
Just, I've been in it long enough. I know what my April and Mays and stuff like in June's look like. So you just know that that's kind of a busier time, right? So I'm not planning too much stuff during that time. I'm really making sure that, yeah, exactly. I'm not going to plan to try and go away for a few days in April or May when I know that, I think I sold like 25 or 30 houses in those 2 months last year, right? So it's like, next year will probably be the same, if not a little bit more, right? So just kind of being prepared for that. And, if you do get any downtime in this industry, try and use it productively. Do something you enjoy. Do something that helps you kind of rejuvenate yourself. Helps keep you motivated. If you just go constantly 365 a year, like I did probably the first 2 years I had my real estate license, eventually that's going to catch up with you, right? Sure, I didn't go on my first all-inclusive vacation until 2017. I was 31. You know what like people, when they hear that, they're like, "You're crazy." But I'm like, no, I was just focused, right? Even if I could, which I probably couldn't have afforded to take a vacation before real estate. Even if I could, I was just constantly working or finishing my university degree or getting my real estate license. There was always something that was like kind of there. So once I got to the point where I could do a vacation, it was like just so rewarding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you've worked so hard to get to that point, right?
And that downtime, do you build that into like your yearly calendar? Like, do you believe in having a certain amount of vacation days, or go on X amount of trips each year?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. I think everybody kind of knows their body, and your body will tell you when you're doing too much. And all I'll say is that just listen when it does tell you. Fortunately, I'm younger right now. I got lots of energy and stuff like that. I know as I get older and, priorities in life kind of change and things, start to evolve that way. I'll probably have to change some things around in the work-wise schedule. But right now my business has just been a priority for me from the get-go. And for right now, for the foreseeable future, I can't see that changing too much. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you've been with Keller Williams for 4.5 years now, you were saying? Yeah.
So I started with Keller Williams right out of the gate. Yeah. What I really found appealing about them, and I'll never knock any other brokerages or anything. I think people find good fits at wherever they feel, called to. But with Keller Williams, they're not the cheapest to start out with for your fees and stuff like that. But I felt like they had the best training, and looking around the brokerage, like where I wanted to be in my career, like there was lots of other people that I could look at and point at and say, you know what, that's who I want to be, or that's where I want to be in 3 years, or, I really respect and admire where they're at in their career, or, how far they've came in so long. So, this year in Durham region, out of the top 100 real estate agents, I think we had 18 from Keller Williams, which is more than any other brokerage in Durham region. So there's lots of top tier talent, high producing agents at our office. And it's really just like a family. Like, it's not competitive internally, if that sounds weird. I know real estate's really known as like a competitive industry, cutthroat industry. I heard it all before I got into it. But it's just open door at Keller Williams. It was like I could walk into any agent's office and ask them a question, and they'd give me honest feedback or their honest advice. And just everybody just is like has an invested interest in seeing each other succeed. And I felt like that right away it felt like home for me. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I'd be where I'm at today if it wasn't for Keller Williams and the support and training and just the brokerage and staff and everything they bring to the table for their agents. So.
Yeah. Can you touch more about the training that they offer? And your brokerage is Keller Williams Energy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my brokerage is Keller Williams Energy. So training, we have a lot of conferences, different courses. We're constantly bringing in top producing agents from within the brokerage and outside of Durham to share advice and input and all that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of invaluable advice that agents that have been doing this for a long time can kind of share. And Keller Williams is very much like a sharing culture. Like, you know, if I can share a mistake that I learned in my first or second year that's going to help another agent save time, aggravation, money, whatever the case is, like, I'm all for it. You know, I think that there's enough business opportunity in Durham region to go around that you don't need to be worried about like sharing your tips with others, right? And I've never experienced at other brokerage, but from what I've heard from other people that have maybe been at other brokerages and stuff like that, is that it isn't necessarily that culture, and they're surprised when they experience that when they come over to Keller Williams Energy or to Keller Williams.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you look forward to the most with your brokerage?
Things that I look forward to the most, actually, we have our turkey drive tomorrow. Honestly, that's probably my favorite event. Turkey Drive and Red Day are probably my two favorite events. So every year, for 11 years now, it's our 11th annual year, we raise money for providing local families in need with a full turkey dinner with all the fixings, like everything, right? And this year we did 2,000 families, so we had to raise, I think it was $75,000, which is an ongoing thing all year long. We do through different events, and we reach out to our sphere. Thank you to everybody who supported Turkey Drive, by the way. Really looking forward to that tomorrow, just to be able to see, people come out from the community and be able to benefit from all that hard work and we put into it over the year, and see the difference that it makes and the smile on their face, and a lot of people, like, it just makes their holiday, right? So I think, sounds cliche, but that's what Christmas is all about. And same thing with Red Day. Red Day is basically a company-wide initiative. It's done throughout Keller Williams worldwide, where everybody picks a local charity or business, and the agents all come together as a team, and we spend the day at that business doing whatever charitable work that, like this year I think it was Boys and Girls Club of Durham. So we we painted that whole venue and helped clean it up, do a lot of the stuff that some of these businesses who operate on a volunteer basis, they don't have the manpower or the means to do this stuff, right? So we try and pick a worthwhile a business or charity every year and give back in that way. And those are probably my two favorite times of the year, just because everybody's smiling at You're going to be there tomorrow. Everybody is smiling there. It's like, it actually, to me, that's Christmas. You know what I mean? Love Christmas, love the holiday, love spending it with my family, but that feeling you have at Turkey Drive and being a part of something that's bigger than just you or, even Keller Williams, it's just seeing the impact it makes on the community. Honestly, it makes my year.
Yeah, you get everybody coming out, right? Like everybody part of the brokerage. Yeah,
like most of our agents are out there. A lot of their families, a lot of people bring in their spouses and their kids and all that kind of stuff. So it's really like an all hands on deck, and the kids love it. They have a blast. Santa's there, and they just kind of know they're helping, and it's good to see them involved and get involved with community stuff like that at a young age. So it's just really been, it's grown so much too. Turkey Drive started 11 years ago, long before I was at KW, so I can't take credit for it, but it started with 50 dinners. And then
you're up to what, 2,000?
And now we've done, the last 4 years, I think we've done 2,000. So,
That's
and
insane.
that number will probably grow from there, right? So just to see it kind of grow, organically with like 50 turkey dinners and helping 50 families to 200 to 500 to 1,000 to 2,000. Like it's been pretty surreal, right? So to be a part of that, it really is humbling, and something I look forward to every year.
Yeah, that's incredible. And just like bringing everybody together and having that, just being a great human being and like, having that culture, that's amazing. What else can you talk about, like about the brokerage?
About Keller Williams?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to I don't want to sound like I'm plugging Keller Williams here, but I'll honestly just say like they're not paying me $1 to say any of this right now. I've just had a great experience there right from the get-go, from the trainings, from the support staff. Chris and Sue, the broker owners, they're fantastic. The agents have all we're all like family. I know people throw that term around kind of loosely, but like we really are. Like, we're invested in each other, seeing each other succeed, and we have a lot of fun doing it along the way too. So
cool. And I mean, you were telling me the other week there, and I've seen the stats too. You got some good accolades that you're acquiring. What are some of those things? Like you're number one agent in your office, in your brokerage there?
Yeah. So last year I was the number one individual agent at Keller Williams Energy. This year I think I'm number 2 in Canada year to date, and number 2 individual of all brokerages for Durham region year to date right now. So that's something,
It's huge.
Pretty proud of.
Yeah, you should be.
I've worked very, very hard and I've had a lot of help and support in that. I don't want this isn't all about me, like, right down to my support, my friends, my family, everything like that has kind of helped me get to where I'm at today. So big things in the future, looking forward to, making every year better than the next. And just my goals all come down to my clients' goals. If I can hit my goals, that's great, but I won't hit my goals without helping my clients reach theirs. And that's what really excites me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that mentality.
You know what I mean? It's like, sure, it's great to sell a certain number of homes that year, but like really when you break it down into like the difference or the impact that you're having on these people's lives. Like I just came from a revisit, where, for those who don't know, you buy a house, you go back to do a revisit after the deal before it closes.
Okay.
And my buyers were like super excited. They brought a painter with them. They brought a contractor. So because we were able to sell their home for $10,000 over asking, they just got 10 grand to redo all the carpet in their new house, to paint their new house, and replace all the light fixtures and like a bunch of other stuff too. So they're going to be able to make their home go to exactly the way they want it without pulling $1 out of another savings fund that they would have, had to dip into, because we were able to get that $10,000 over the asking. They can put that right back into their new home, which is for their growing family. So it's just like, stuff like that. It's like you can see a tangible difference. Like they were just like so excited, right? Like they weren't sure what renovations they were going to be able to do, or how long they'd have to wait to be able to do those renovations. But then when we were able to sell quickly for more than we were anticipating, like they get to see an immediate, a reward from that result. Right. So that's something like, that's just one example, right? Like I can think of times where, you call a person back and you say, I've got an accepted offer on your house, and like they were hoping for one number and you were able to get them like 5 or 10 or 20 more than that, and they're like in tears.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? And then I get like emotional because it's like, sure, that's great for the stats and everything, but like at the end of the day, that's not what's important. It's like the positive impact that doing a good job can have on these people's lives. Like you're dealing with their largest asset, right? So I always go into every listing appointment with the idea and with the mentality that I need this listing, because if I don't list their home, they're not going to get the level of service they deserve. Mm-hmm. And that's when I shifted my mindset into that kind of focus. It really kind of had a profound impact on my business. It was like, if they don't work with me, I genuinely feel like they're doing a disservice to themselves. And that's not me trying to be like cocky or anything like that. But like, I sell a lot of houses. I see a lot of good and bad home experiences, not like outside of myself. And I've heard all the horror stories, and just being able to like have a 5-star review from over 60, 70 past clients that have worked with you, is something that just I really, really pride myself. And it comes back. I'm not perfect. It just comes back to understanding your client's needs and understanding what you need to do to help them reach whatever their goal is.
Yeah, I mean, like I read those reviews too, and like people say amazing things about you and your process and your, just your honesty and your work ethic and just pulling everything together to be, to make it all successful.
They aren't paid actors, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. But like honestly, it's nice to know. It's nice to feel like like you're appreciated, right? And I'm fortunate that I work with a ton of fantastic people. And I get the opportunity to be involved in such a big point in their life and big transition in their life, right? And I don't take it lightly. Like I approach every home sale and client the same. Whether it's an entry level condo at a more affordable price point or your big $1 million homes, it's like at the end of the day, it's 5-star start to finish. That's what I want. You know what I mean? And if you're not entirely happy with any point along the way, let me know so I can help improve that.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? And just kind of checking in with your clients and making sure that their needs and their goals are being met and respected, right? So
yeah, that's an amazing attitude to have as well.
And
I've seen you grow too. I mean, like we started working together, 2 years ago, or 2 years ago now. And, I've watched you grow your business and like other, entrepreneurs that I bring on the show too. And we talk about kind of that journey. Yeah. Like how has it been like, since you started to now, and like, where are you going? What's the next step for you?
It's been 4.5 years. I feel like my life's completely changed for the better, since getting into real estate. For a variety of reasons. I really enjoy working for myself. Well, I obviously work for your clients at the end of the day, but like kind of being your own boss. Like I've had good bosses and bad bosses before, right? And just kind of being your own boss is nice. I think in the future, I think it's I feel like I've achieved success, but I haven't achieved where I want to go yet. And just kind of figuring out who else can I bring along for the ride, right? I think there's only so many homes, or only so much you can do as like one agent, right? Yeah. Even with all the support staff and stuff like that. So I think the next step would be like finding like-minded individuals that kind of want to be a part of this with me, and then just achieving success through them. I'll remember making my first really good year in real estate and what that did on my life, and moving forward, you'll never be able to kind of quite emulate that like journey again, but I can relive it with others, and I can help others reach their goals. I think that's kind of where I see the future of my business going, is just, bringing on like-minded individuals that can kind of come be a part of this together, and reach goals individually as a team, and just kind of help changing people's lives, man. Like I would just love to I know how I felt in that first year when you finally feel like you found your calling, and so to be able to experience that with others, I think would be like the natural progression.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Listen, dude, you've shared so much with us, and it's
Sorry for
an
chatting
honor.
your
it's good.
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you, and I look forward to seeing your success continue and what you're going to do in the future.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot for your time. And
thank you, Mitch and Sanker Media, by the way. For any agents out there, if you're looking for a marketing company, they've been a huge part of my growth and my success. And, I know he's probably mad at me for saying this right now, but highly, highly, highly recommend them. They're fantastic at what you do. And thanks again for having me on today. It's been a pleasure. And
Thanks for your kind
hopefully I
words.
was able to, hopefully anybody watching was able to learn a few things from this.
Absolutely.
Feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions.
We'll put your stuff at
I'm
the,
happy
in
to
the
help
comments
any way
below.
I can. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks a lot for watching my conversation with Nate Brouwer. If you or someone that you know is a leading industry professional with a great story, I want to talk to you. Shoot me an email at show@sankermedia.com. For more videos like these, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.